Welcome to tips and tricks about weight training. So if you're newer to weight training, or even if you've done it a little bit, but you want to learn a little bit more, this is the video for you. So you can see I have a variety of weights. You don't necessarily need a variety of weights. It can be helpful though, because sometimes when you fatigue, you drop down a little bit, or as you build strength, you'll want to go up a little bit. If you don't have weights, I do recommend getting some. But if you don't and you want to start, you can always get a wide lid water bottle that's plastic, fill it with rocks, fill it with sand, fill it with water, or just rocks and sand, but that'll move around a little bit more. But fill it pretty tight, and you can use those. So a couple of things about weight training, especially with the upper body, is that a lot of times we get into the trapezius and we start lifting, and we use accessory muscles when we're fatiguing. And we want to keep our form really good so that the work is going into the muscles that we want it to go into, and also that we're protecting our joints. So when I do these videos for you, in all of my weights videos, I use less weight than what I usually use in real life because I'm talking, and if I were using a heavier weight, I would get winded much more quickly. So some of the things that I want to point out, and I will show you, there are different ways to do different types of curls: regular curl, drag curl, curl to extended, right? There's all different kinds. I will explain those in the videos, but understand that you want to listen for the cueing of what type of curl we're doing or what type of lift we're doing, okay? The other thing is anything leaned over, you can decide how far you want to lean over, and that will impact where you're feeling the work, okay? The other thing is bending the knees instead of keeping the knees straight. For most of the work, we will have the knees bent and hinge at the hips, which is what we want. Now, it doesn't mean that doing something like this is actually wrong. Loading the body in all of the different movement patterns that it can do has been proven scientifically to be okay as long as the weight that you're choosing is correct for you. You wouldn't want to do something like a twisting action, right? Something like here with a super heavy weight, especially if you had low back issues, unless you had worked up to that weight. When we do things like leaning over and reaching back, this is a row, and what we're trying to do is get into the back. So if I were to take my elbows more out to the sides, I'm going to feel that a little more in the front. So I'm going to keep the elbows close in and work there, and draw my shoulder blades closer onto my back. A real important tip about that: sometimes when we pull our shoulder blades closer onto our back, we drop at our pelvis and our core. So we lose that stability there. So you'll want to keep drawing that diamond from the pubic bone to the low ribs to the sternum, drawing that gently back without rounding, okay? So keeping those neutral curves in the spine, and then really taking the elbows back and the shoulder blades closer together to get into that back body, into the lats a little bit more. When we're in something like a plank pose, we'll want to do that same thing, keeping the weight close to you for something like a row. And what you want to not do is a lot of moving side to side. We're looking to stabilize at the core when we're standing, and then maybe even more so when we're in plank. Oftentimes we can sag, and then we're trying to lift here while we're collapsing and condensing our lumbar, which can be problematic. So if you get to the point of fatigue, stop the video, or go down to a lesser weight, or take a break and come back. So these things can also be done on all fours. So if I'm ever instructing a plank, know that you can come down to all fours, and I'll probably say that. There will be movements you're probably not used to, stuff like this for the rotator cuff, stuff like this for the shoulders, this, right? There will be all sorts of weird movements that you're not used to doing in your daily habitual movement. And I recommend with those types of movements, the ones that are kind of, this is more standard, right? Lifting something. The ones that are less standard use a lower pound of weight, especially something like this, right? So this is internal and external rotation of the shoulders, and it's on a long lever. So the further out your weight is from your body, probably the less weight you want to do. You will feel that something like this, holding this, I would feel a lot more than something, say, like this, okay? Or this is harder than this. So I hope that makes sense. If we're doing something and you have two weights going and they're symmetrical, two weights and they're doing something symmetrically, and it's too much weight, but you don't have two smaller weights, a really good fix for that, and it adds some stabilization too, is to just drop one of the smaller weights and grab one weight on either side, like so. So you can always take a weight off and do something with one weight instead, holding it in both hands, even something like this. I will bring a lot of dynamic movement in so that we will get more out of it than just say, okay, we're standing here and we're doing bicep curls. I would like to bring in other actions like standing in a split stance lunge so that we're actually working the hips and the legs and balance while we're doing that work. You can always delete off one of the things I've added on. If I've added on legs and you're like, nope, not doing legs, stand tall and do the work in a standing, stable position. I'm thinking if there's anything else that you need to know. The diamond shape, stabilization, deleting off weight, and slowly building up. I highly recommend that you use the comment section to ask me questions. If something comes up, something didn't feel quite right, ask me in the comment section. And if this is something that you need more of a private lesson for, then I'm here for that too. So I hope that you have a wonderful journey with your weights and that we get strong together. Namaste.